The Seahorse Effect by Seahorse. Chapter 17. No more combat missions! When they got out of the speeder and boarded the transport off the planet, Anakin made himself scarce and fled to one of the engine rooms in the hope that it would be empty. Mercifully, it was. He sank down onto the narrow catwalk and quickly slipped into the healing trance for the second time that day. He'd used it to heal the wound in the speeder, but Obi-Wan had pulled him out of it before he could check on the twins. To his relief, both were fine and blazing brightly. The blaster burn hadn't even grazed the inner wall of muscle tissue. His shoulders sagged in relief, but then tensed again as he remembered what had happened on their way back. Obi-Wan had seen his bump. Splaying his hands over the slightly curved skin, Anakin ran over the possibilities in his head. There wasn't a whole lot of difference yet, he knew. He'd read during his research that strong abs could hide a bump for a long time, and that was certainly the case with him. His height also helped by making the curve gentler instead of abrupt like it would be if he was shorter. Still, the fact that Obi-Wan had noticed at all was not good. "I'll ask for a sabbatical as soon as I get back to the temple." He stroked the bump up and down with his flesh hand and smiled. "Jedi Skywalker?" Anakin immediately jolted his hand away from his belly as his name blared out through the ship-wide comm system. "Please come to the bridge. There is a message for you and General Kenobi from the Jedi Council." "That can't be good." He cringed as he got back to his feet. Quickly, he slipped out of the ship's engine section and made his way to the bridge. One of the higher-ranked officers nodded to him as he came in. "General Skywalker, General Kenobi." The ship's highest-ranked officer, a colonel, addressed the two Jedi. "We received this message just before planetary departure." He nodded to another clone, who hit the play switch. A blue hollow image popped up on the floor, Mace Windu in miniature. "Master Kenobi," Mace began, "we have discovered a disturbing undercurrent of the war and believe that this entire conflict has been perpetrated by the Sith Lord Darth Sidious in an attempt to gain power over the Senate. Even more disturbing, he planned to use functions programmed into the Republic's clone troops to wipe out the Jedi. In light of this new information, the Council is sending you and Skywalker to end the fighting on Isildan. If this war is indeed orchestrated by the Sith, all conflict must be stopped at once. Once you have withdrawn our troops from Isildan, return to the temple at once for further investigation and action. May the Force be with you." The image vanished. Obi-Wan took a deep breath, promised himself that he would think more on this later, and turned to the colonel. "Please take the ship out of hyperspace and calculate a new jump to Isildan, and send a message to the troops there to alert them of our arrival. Anakin and I will be in my quarters if you have any pressing concerns." With that, he left the bridge with his younger companion following behind. When they reached their small shared cabin, Obi-Wan sat down on his bed and motioned for Obi-Wan to do the same. The door slid shut and both Jedi wilted slightly. "We have been blind," the Master lamented. "The Sith have been toying with us for who knows how long, and we never realized." He ran a hand through his short hair. "How could this have happened?" The other man leaned forward, rested an elbow on his knee, and scrubbed his flesh hand through his curls. "I don't know, Obi-Wan, but at least we know now." "But why didn't we sense it sooner?" Obi-Wan vented. "Someone should have seen this through the Force." Anakin let his hands dangle between his bent knees. "Master, none of us have been able to meditate on things like that recently. We've been too busy with the war. Even Master Yoda has probably spent more time on thinking of strategies than searching the Force for stuff like this." Then his back straightened and he looked Obi-Wan straight in the eyes. "But we know now, so we can end this. We should get some sleep. Once we finish this next mission, we can get back to the temple and find out what happened. And I can finally stop hiding," he added in his mind. "Once I go on sabbatical, I can focus on my children and stop worrying about the rest of the world." "I hate ground battles." Anakin hissed through his teeth as he sliced through a group of droids trying to surprise him from behind. The troop extraction on Isildan was proving to be much trickier than he thought. The clones had been right in the middle of a pitched battle when they arrived, but it was going poorly, and that was why the two Jedi had jumped into the fray. "Ani, get to the ridge," Obi-Wan urged through the comm. "We need to free a group of clones. They've been pinned." "Fine. he replied rather tersely. The Force flashed a warning and Anakin swayed back. A blaster bolt singed the fabric over his middle and he growled, sending the guilty droid into a knot of its fellows with a Force push even as he twisted out of the way of more blaster fire. "Get to the high ground," he growled inwardly. He began slicing his saber through the droids in front of him, wielding the blade one-handed as he sent more droids to either side with Force pushes from his other hand. A blaster bolt came from behind and he jumped straight up. The bolt passed beneath him and hit one of the droids that had tried to attack from the front. Grinning at the artificial stupidity, he landed and continued his charge towards the ridge. Obi-Wan reached it seconds after he did, and Anakin turned around, pressing his back to his old masters. A droid came at them from the right, and Obi-Wan sliced through its neck. "What took you so long?" he shouted. "Protecting my middle," Anakin growled behind his thick shields. "I got here before you did," he answered aloud as he snapped several mechanical necks with a twist of the Force and caught a blaster bolt with his lightsaber. Why do they always aim for the twins? It was getting harder to protect the babies. "Yes," Obi-Wan conceded as he kicked back another droid. The mechanical soldiers seemed to get that the battle wasn't worth more losses, and the swarm abated. Anakin took a moment to breathe and restrained himself from pressing a hand to his stomach. The curve was more pronounced there, and his Jedi tunics were noticeably tighter. Forget protection, simply keeping them hidden was getting harder. He glanced over his shoulder at Obi-Wan. "Where are the trapped stormtroopers?" he asked as he unclipped the two small but surprisingly powerful blasters from his belt. The older of the two gestured to their right at a group of white fighters trapped against a steep hill by a ring of droids. "We need to break them out," Obi-Wan explained. Anakin thought for a moment and then handed his blasters to Obi-Wan. "Hold these, I want to try something." He clutched the guns and watched Anakin's Force presence flare. There was a loud clatter in the direction of the pinned droids, and Obi-Wan looked over. His mouth fell open at the sight of almost all the droids dead on the ground. He turned back to his friend. "What did you do?" "I fried their circuits," Anakin explained as he took back his blasters and clipped them back onto his belt. Who knew that healing meditation worked with droids? He smiled to himself as he reactivated his lightsaber and plunged back into the fray. Then his smile vanished as he swerved to the side to avoid yet another blaster bolt aimed at the twins. "That's it. No more combat missions," he promised himself.